What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the CrabNet Show. On today's episode, we're talking Chelsea. They're clearly on a mission. Lots of big transfers over the mid-season. We'll be assessing their transfer strategy to see what are they trying to achieve with these big transfers and what will tactics look like for Lampard's men. That's the first segment for today. The second one is talking financial models in the football clubs. How are they going about balancing their books, spending large amounts of money with the financial fair play model in place? Lots of talk around finances over the last week or so with Messi being available. So we'll be talking about the finances in the football clubs as our second segment. And the last segment of today, as we always do, something fun for all you homies on the street. We'll be going down memory lane and talking about historic transfer Mishits. Yes, the ones that you paid big money for but failed on the big stage. That's how we're closing out this show for today. Thanks again for joining us. I'm your host Raj, and we're bringing fresh opinions of the streets of South Africa here on the CrabNet. It's our 13th episode, and we're welcoming back a full house of resident analysts today. Starting from the top, homie Shay, welcome back.
Sure, it's always good to be here.
Cool. Always love having you. And Gur is back with us again. How's it, Gur? We missed you on the last one.
Okay, Raj. Hi, short man, missed you too. Good to be back.
Great stuff. And always coming fresh with these opinions, homeboy Gunnar Kai. What's happening, Kai?
What's up, Raj, man? Good to be back, guys.
Cool. Coming fresh off a Community Shield victory there, Kai. Probably
all about winning, man.
Trophies count, but congrats.
Yeah.
You pooped our boys, my Liverpool boys there, but we'll definitely have a feature talking to the Arsenal in the coming weeks. But it's all about transfers on today's show. As we said, lots of transfer news. We on mid-season break, and one of the biggest movers in the transfer market is the Russian owner spending his money again at Stamford Bridge. Romans millions are bringing in new talent to Chelsea, and that's the first segment today, boys. First up, Shay, what were you thinking when you saw these big names coming in to Chelsea over the last few weeks? We know the likes of Timo Werner was secured before the season ended, but someone like Ben Chilwell recently signed by Frank Lampard, 50-odd million euros. What's your thoughts there, Shay?
Honestly, very impressive. I'm thinking that this Chelsea squad is really taking shape. Even before they made these big signings, they look like a genuine team of the future. And since they added Timo Werner, I really thought that they had some proper lethal firepower up front there. I don't know if you guys have seen any of his YouTube clips or what he's done at Leipzig in the past, but the man's got a rocket finish and he can shoot with both feet from acute angles as well. He's a proper finisher, and with him, Tabi Abraham, Olivier Giroud and his experience, I think they're really looking good up front. And obviously with the extra firepower that they put in the midfield now, the creativity in there, I think there's going to be a lot of service for those men up front. And they also look like they have a solid defense as well, with some experienced campaigns.
Yeah. And speaking about defense, they've bolstered that centre-back pairing with the experience of Thiago Silva. And Kai, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Thiago Silva, veteran Brazilian, coming into a Chelsea defense that lacked a bit of leadership. What did you make of Thiago coming in from PSG on a free?
Yeah, so I think I kind of disagree with Shane. I think Chelsea are having a hit and miss transfer policy at the moment.
Okay,
I mean,
that's a strong one.
Don't get me wrong. I understand Pulisic, Ziyech and Werner. They're good signings, untested in the league so far. Obviously, they haven't been here. You don't know what they're going to give you, right? So it goes back to that Messi discussion that we had previously. And then another point. So we've said this in previous episodes where I told you guys, Lampard and Chelsea are using these youth players, which they did last season, for a while because they had the transfer ban, right? Yeah. And it was as soon as the transfer ban opened up, these guys are going to start splashing the cash, and which is exactly what they're doing now. but I think they're not aiming in the correct directions. I mean, why would you let go? For me, right? Why would you let go of Willian, who was your second best player statistically for Chelsea last season, because he was over 30, and then you buy a 35-year-old Thiago Silva from a side that really didn't want him at the end, PSG. I mean, as much as he did well in that Champions League final, he was out because he served his purpose as being a footballer. So I don't see Chelsea as strengthening their backline. I actually think they've weakened it. I'd rather have Azpilicueta in the backline as opposed to Thiago Silva.
Yeah, and I guess that's actually a good point there, Kai, in terms of the age on Thiago's side. But good to pull you into this one. We did see some frailties in that Chelsea defense over the years. We always talk about someone like Marcos Alonso, who's great going forward, but not the best defender. Shoring things up with a Chilwell, who we know is solid going forward and in defense. Thiago, with his experience, his know-how of the game. Do you see the Chelsea defense being a lot stronger with the likes of Azpilicueta and Rudiger, and now complemented with Thiago Silva and Chilwell?
I agree with Kai there. Not a lot. We knew the Alonso one was coming. We could see Alonso was out of favor last season. So we knew the left back role was coming, and that is all they needed, I think. You need a team that does what the manager, the coach wants you to do. And he probably finds that's in Chilwell, which he wasn't finding in Alonso. Thiago Silva is a good signing to have just because of the experience, and Chelsea always go for things like that, having these experienced players playing in things like Champions League and stuff. So but yes, they went for the attacking. I mean, just bringing Ziyech in and letting go. Timo Werner, just bringing in these attacking players and letting go of players that were becoming out of favor with the manager's style shows that they're in for a hauling of trophies.
Yeah, and it's, as we said, it's a transfer strategy that's clearly aggressive. It looking to revamp a Chelsea squad of many talents that are maybe past their prime. And Shay, to get your thoughts on this, someone like Willian, who Kai mentioned, has moved on. There's talk about N'Golo Kante being moved on as well. Do you think this is a total restructuring and a Chelsea? Or is it just a few bad eggs that are being pulled out to be replaced by younger, fresher talent?
I don't think it's a case of a total restructure. I mean, there are still some old Chelsea boys in there, but if you look at the squad over the past few years, it has changed a lot despite the transfer ban. I mean, I was quite surprised last season when I was watching the Chelsea team to see a number of new names come into the mix.
Yeah, the likes of Tammy Abraham, the likes of Mason Mount, those are not new signings, but they are new faces in that team.
Right, yeah. And I think what they've done now with Thiago Silva coming in and offloading Willian and maybe Kante as well, it's a new dynamics of the team that I think Frank Lampard is bringing. And he does want that experience in there when he brought Thiago Silva. I was also quite surprised with that signing. But in terms of Champions League football and Europe and stuff, he does need a leader in that team. And I'm sure Kai will agree that's what David Luiz is doing in the same kind of role.
Shane, why did they release David Luiz then, or sell David Luiz? If you wanted experience and footballing nouns and basically upskilling the younger defenders, which they don't have, by the way. Arsenal do. We've signed two young up and coming centre backs that David Luiz can shadow.
But you know this, and you obviously argue the point on the flip side. The likes of David Luiz is a potential risk because of the way that he plays, whereas a Thiago Silva is consistency. Yes, he's similar age, he's similar leadership, but you know what you're getting from Thiago, but you don't know what you're getting from Luiz. So
we've had this discussion before with the Messi thing, and I'll reiterate it, right? David Luiz, you know what you're going to get with him in the league. He's a lucky packet. You don't know what you're going to get in terms of a game. but you know at the end of the day, he's either going to be good or he's going to be bad, and you know what you're getting from him. Thiago Silva, you know nothing about it. You don't know if he's going to be the best. You don't know if he's going to be the worst. And at the end of the day, Thiago Silva is 35. David Luiz is 2-3 years younger than him.
Yeah,
right?
but
Thiago Silva signed. I think he signed on a 3-year contract. You're going to sign this man up till the age of 38.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
confused with what you're saying. You're saying, yeah, with Luis, you know that you that you don't know what you're gonna get.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you don't know what you're gonna get.
Listen, what I'm saying is you'll get David Luiz performing like Maldini 90% of the time, and the one time you'll get get Jones.
That's where you lopsided because he's an Arsenal player now. I think
that's a terrible comparison.
As an in-between guy here, I can tell you, Luiz is giving you 60-40 at max. You don't know what you're getting.
Comparing him to Maldini is just not on.
But I think from a Chelsea perspective, Chelsea have shown their end that they're not willing to have players in their team who could be a ticking time bomb. And someone like Kepa, who's their biggest goalkeeper.
Thiago Silva, you're buying a ticking time bomb because you don't know what you're going to get.
No, he's consistent.
That's what I'm saying. That's my argument. He's not consistent in the EPL.
That's the same argument that the guys gave to Messi. I think between the three of us, we agreed that we think Messi will guarantee success. And if I have to ask Shay and Gur, I'm actually asking you guys this now, Shay and Gur. What do you think of Thiago Silva? Will he need to prove something in the English Premier League, or does he have the talent to walk in and still be Mr. Reliable?
Honestly, when you're at that level of experience, I think you can walk in and be Mr. Reliable. I do think he'll make his mistakes, and I'll be criticized heavily for that. But at the same time, I really think he only has one season to offer at the age of 35.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I don't even think he's going to be playing every
That's
game
fine.
this season.
I'm just happy he's in the squad. He's there.
He may be there for the cup games, because they're going strong on all fronts. So he may be that guy that plays Champions League.
So why sign him, Saga? Why sign him? You're spending 50 million on a left back. Why not spend 60 million and buy a proper centre back? A Koulibaly,
I think they have proper centre backs.
One of those
they
guys.
needed the left back.
I don't see a proper
left
centre
back.
back.
They don't really.
In my opinion, I would rather keep Alonso. But I mean, that's how they decided.
They need a centre back. They don't need fullbacks.
A left back. He was playing fullback.
The way I see it is, he's going to be the man who sits back.
Yeah.
The times that he does play, he will be last man, and there is enough competition in the Chelsea defense now for them to be successful.
There's not.
Yeah.
There's Zuma, Tomori, and Christensen.
But
Those guys are all under the age of 25 and all
you named all the outside defenders. What about
Those
and Marcus Alonso and
Azpilicueta is a fullback.
It doesn't matter if he's a fullback. I'm talking about defenders.
That's reason that Azpilicueta played as a centre back last season is because Frank Lampard didn't trust his first choice centre backs.
No, that could be true. But I mean, there's no doubt that Thiago Silva comes with experience. It comes with leadership.
I agree.
He's captain his country. He's captain PSG for many years. So Chelsea has made a statement in that they're not just buying young, exciting talent, but they're looking for that leadership in the team as well. So, and looking at the signings they've made so far, the talk of Kai Havertz coming in for 75 odd million. Chelsea is going to be a real threat this year, boys.
I definitely agree with that.
To close out this Chelsea segment, with these transfers and potentially a few more coming in before deadline day, are Chelsea just locking in a top 4 position, or are they true challengers to the likes of Man City and Liverpool next year?
Genuine challenges, true challenges. I really think they have a good shot at taking the league next year.
Yeah.
Kai, you agree?
Nah, not for me. So for me, it's a toss-up between City and Liverpool. I think City will be too strong this season. Liverpool have been knocking on the door and won it obviously last season. It takes a toll over the years. City will win it this season.
If Messi comes, I'll put money on them doing that.
Chelsea are not going to be in that. I mean, for me, I don't even think that Chelsea might even make it into the top 4.
I think it's between Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, to be honest. Yeah. And United are also outside favourites, but they have not had that consistency recently. So
United are not outside favourites for me either. As I said, it's between those two. Chelsea are not going to be in it. I don't even think Arsenal are going to be in it in terms of top 4. But yeah.
So we'll have the top 4 and champions picks proper in one of the future episodes. But Chelsea definitely on a mission, looking at their transfer strategy, and not a complete restructure, but definitely plugging some holes that they've seen as potential issues over the last season. Definitely wants to watch.
Raj, before you close that one, do you think Lampard's going to be there next season or at the end of the season?
Very, very dependent on the trophies that he picks up. He has to deliver some form of silverware with the amount of money being spent. And if he doesn't, I think the sword will be wielded by Mr. Abramovich. So good luck to Lampy. He's got the open chest with lots of signings now. Let's see how he does. Speaking of the open chest, boys, our second segment, talking about that treasure that comes with being at a rich football club, but balancing the books is something that many of these football clubs are thinking about in the current climate with the COVID situation and the fact that many clubs are really under economic pressure because of not having the stadiums full to capacity, bringing in that revenue and having to pay back some monies in TV streams that couldn't be fulfilled due to the lockout. So football financial models has become a big talking point over the last few weeks, especially with Messi being available for sums up to 500 to 700 million euros. So I want to get your thoughts on it, and good to start with you on this one. Many clubs have different opinions on how they want to run their football club. Your team, for example, is Manchester United. How do you see Manchester United being run as a financial model from a football club perspective?
Pretty well, if you would like to call it that. I think they're the third most successful club or generating club.
So what helps them become this rich football model?
It's the hype. It's the hype, and then the sponsorship that comes around the hype. Because broadcasting, yes, is one, but clothing. I've always said the clothing is killing it. The likes of Pogba, which I've mentioned before, that move was funded by Adidas, and they made their money in a week just on Pogba sales, shirt sales, and it's good for what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's a win-win both ways. We get Pogba, Adidas are making the money, raking it in. But it's always been about business.
Do you think maybe that's a problem in the football stage? A club like Manchester United, and not to put your guys down, but you haven't been successful for the last 5 to 10 years consistently, yet you can go out and spend 35 million just yesterday on Donny van den Beek, a young Dutch midfielder, without delivering success in terms of trophies, without delivering consistent Champions League
prospect investments. I mean, we're talking about finance,
but is that fair? Is that fair in the footballing sense?
Fair to who? Who's it unfair to?
Fair to a club like Leicester City.
This Lights just got an opportunity now, bro. He's in the limelight.
So as a fan, you don't give a shit. You don't give a shit about the fact that your club is not actually winning trophies.
But as long as this is what they're doing. How are you going to do it? You're going to have to buy players. You're going to have to invest. And the thing is, you're talking about investing. You're talking about how do you run a financial model? You look at investors for as long as we are alive. What do they put their money in on gold? United is gold. Even if you're an investor and you want to put your money into a football club, you're going to put it into Manchester United because over the years they've always been showing you that they can bring you money.
Okay, I get you, and Kai, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Obviously, being an Arsenal supporter, you went through those tough days in the 2000s when the Emirates was still being built, and everyone spoke about, we're waiting for the Emirates to be built, and then we'll start spending money. And Wenger was on a shoestring budget, but he still delivered success. What did you think of the Arsenal model in terms of living within your means, and then you see the likes of Man City come in and take over the football world with the millions coming from the Etihad.
Yeah, so I think in the era when we ridicule Wenger and the Arsenal model at the time, but I think that is actually the model at how football should have been run, right? You live between your means and that kind of thing. So when we built that stadium and when we thought that we're going to get more people into the stadium and a higher revenue because of bums on seats and all of those things, that was the way that we thought at that time, you would generate more income to buy the best players of the world. Then you got City that came in with the Abu Dhabis, you got United with the Hicks, you got Liverpool with all of those guys,
Not really
And,
Liverpool, but carry on.
Liverpool did come in with owners.
Not with the type of money that you're talking about.
Well, you've got owners. So owners is a different situation. compared to
Everyone's
board
got
of directors.
owners. Everyone's got owners.
No, Arsenal didn't have owners until recently. Only when Stan Kroenke bought majority shares of last season did he become sole owner. It was a board of shareholders before that.
It is, but you have
Right,
a
so-
majority
There's no
shareholder.
sole owner in football clubs. There's always shareholders.
Yeah, and this is a majority shareholder.
There's a majority
Exactly.
shareholder.
So who is the majority shareholder at Liverpool?
That would be the FSG group, but we're talking about spending money that we know are in terms of revolutionizing the club, the way that the cities are spent on the likes of Aguero's, the way that
Yeah,
United
so let
is
me
spent on
get back
Pogba's.
to what I was trying to say, right? So when those guys or when those majority shareholders came with money that they could pump into the club as inflated amounts of money into the club to buy players that the club did not generate to buy those players, it basically shifted how football worked, right? So we were caught with our pants down at that time because we were still building our stadium. And that's the reason why we had to sell our best players to get, we had to, what we did was we tried to survive and stay in the top four.
Yeah.
Right? It's being glorified at the moment, but we did it for years whilst building a stadium and selling our best players. Right? So for me, that should have been the model going forward. So I don't believe in these majority shareholders coming in and pumping excessive amount of cash. But on the other end, I mean, at the end of the day, right, TV rights and endorsements is the biggest forms of income value streams for most of these clubs, right? And at the end of the day, those come with big signings. So you buy big, you win titles, and you attract better players. And that cycle continues. But the key factor here is you need to win the titles. United stopped winning those titles, and now they can't perform or buy those massive players that they used to. But when they were buying those big players, they were winning the big titles, and that just continued. So the key factor to remain in those type of financial models is to win the titles. That's it.
Yeah.
Barcelona have done it. Real Madrid have done it. Bayern Munich have done it. PSG now need to do it.
But I guess there is a second model that is not so much in the top tier of the football club that we're speaking about. And Shay, I want to get your thoughts on this. A club like Leicester has shown that not just the title win that they had 5 years ago, but over the last 5 years after that title, and then maybe even worse to an extent over the last few years, have shown that they've created a new financial model where they bring in certain talent and develop them into superstars. The likes of Riyad Mahrez comes to mind, Ben Chilwell, we spoke about it, Harry Maguire that moved to United from Leicester. And then the likes of Leicester are able to bring in talent that supplements that. And then we think about the likes of James Maddison, who's come in after Mahrez left and now is valued at more than 50 million himself. That financial model is very typical of the old Ajax system where they develop great players. What's your thought on that financial model?
Yeah, so it's one thing coming in and spending big bucks and bringing in the best players in the world, attracting the most hottest young talent that money can afford, and winning titles with them just based on those big names. But it's another thing having a small team, like you mentioned, Leicester coming up from Division 1 or the Championship rather, and coming into the Premier League and actually winning it. I mean, that's something that people don't talk about too much now, but it's probably the most unusual thing that we've seen in the Premier League since Blackburn Rovers in 1996. you don't get a smaller team that's outside of your big spenders who come and breed players, mostly some local talent from UK, and end up winning a title, and then they manage to actually sell those players and make a huge profit from it. That's another financial model altogether, where you making money on your transfers.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, but Shane, you spoke about Blackburn, right? Those guys spent a lot of cash to get them to that level, right? Remember they bought Shearer, Sutton,
that was way before,
and who was the other
before
part
I
of the
can
S?
even remember, Kai. That was just an example I was throwing out to illustrate.
That was a 96.
Yeah, I know it was 96. I must have been like very young back then. That was just an example I was throwing out in comparison.
But what I'm saying is they spent a lot of cash. They spent cash.
I agree with you. I get that they spent a lot of cash. Maybe that was a bad example.
Leicester didn't spend cash. Yeah.
What I'm saying, it was very unusual for a small team like Leicester to come up from the Championship.
I agree.
And be able to win the league. Yeah. And it's very good for them because the amount of money that they would have brought in with the revenue to actually make it to the Champions League and go play against all the lucrative teams all around Europe, that'll be great for them in terms of growth. And you can see what it's done for them now. They're still finishing in the top 5. They're still like up there in the top 3 for most of the season. They're still having a really good run.
Yeah.
And they managed to keep a lot of their players back. I mean, I know they made their money and slowly they're letting go player by player. And you may question why Vardy stayed, where they could have got a huge price tag for him with his age and his pedigree. But at the moment, they still have a formidable team to keep going and keep that money ticking over.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of those smaller clubs.
Yeah, and I think that's the main focus that I wanted to bring to this conversation. I feel like this the finances of football has dictated who wins and who challenges for trophies and who remains mid-table clubs. And to end off this segment, I actually want to get your thoughts on this, boys, because for me, there's a lot of concern around whether we're actually seeing tactics and proper football know-how getting you titles, getting you victory, with the likes of Man City being able to potentially spend 500 million to buy Lionel Messi. Is that truly Pep bringing good football to the Etihad, or is it money buying them a title? So tell me your thoughts on, to close out this segment, should football be as commercial as it is, or should it just be football? Starting with you, Shay.
Okay, so I'm not for the big spending. I think it's quite ridiculous, really. I think that money could be spent on much more humane efforts, where it's rather being spent on a single player and a club, and that money is being put to no good benefit. But I guess that's another topic altogether. I think the only way you could know for sure if Pep is as good as we say he is if you put him in a small team and see what he can do there. But that's never going to happen in our careers. Let's see if Jose, the one true test will be if Jose can win some titles with Spurs.
They're the smallest team
in
London.
Then you'll know if he really is a quality manager, if he really is brilliant, because he did it with Porto, and you may think it was fluke back then, but he actually won the league and he won the Champions League. And
he won the title with the United as well.
What title he won? One
Europa League.
Europa League. UEFA. Who cares about this damn Europa Cup?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it was a small team.
Well, another point to bring up here is if it happens to your team, like Kai, for example, if big money came into Arsenal, your tune will change very fast. You'll be very happy.
Shame. We've been spending a lot of money. Right. Yeah. I mean, last season we spent 72 million on one.
72 million on Pepe is not a lot of money. That's your biggest signing. And that
what is your biggest signing? 80 million for Pogba.
I don't know what our actual biggest signing was. But I do know that the money is there. And when I saw that one season with big names coming in, like Falcao and Di Maria all at the same time, I was like, here's the money. It's going to be titles. But that was not the case.
Yeah.
It is not always the case. You have to have a complete squad and manager to back it up and the money. And it's not necessarily always about the money. I'm not very happy about the big spending happening all the time.
So it sounds like Shay is anti-commercializing football, good?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's 11 guys playing, and like Leicester did it with 11 guys. And you mentioned Messi, if City did buy Messi, but Messi was playing for Barcelona last season, and they didn't take anything last season. And also, there was no other player to compete against him like how you always had Ronaldo. So you can't make an excuse for the world's one of the best players, one of the two best players. It's just 11 guys. They run on a hype, like how Leicester ran on a hype, and now Wolves are running now on a hype. The money thing comes with, yes, I want this name, I want that name. You know why? It commercializes the team. It brings in the revenue. End of the day, bro. Next season, Ronaldo, Messi, even
Pompey,
all
Neymar,
the names. This Polish show,
Lewandowski.
even they won't perform next season. So maybe you'll see the Mitrovic being the best.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mitrovic.
He can do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it.
And Kai, you sound like
flow where the money is.
Kai, you sound
they
like
put money to make money.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like you see it as the commercial aspect of it is fine in the game because it progresses the game. But Kai, your thoughts?
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have heard me say this before. At the end of the day, football is a capitalist sport. It's all about making money. This is a business, right? You buy big players to get those endorsements, to get those bums in the seat, to make more money, right? So as a manager coming into any of these clubs, you might have amazing tactics and, all of these kind of things, but you want to draw the best players, and your club wants you to draw the best players so you can attract the TV rights, attract the endorsements and all of those things. But more than just that, Raj, at the end of the day, right, it is about tactics. For me, it's about tactics. But you want the best players to perform at the level that you want them to do to get your tactics through the game, right? So again, let me put in an example, right? So it's the difference of having Vidal at his prime as opposed to like a Flamini or a Coquelin or something. Better players will obviously perform better through your tactics and what you want the game to, what you want your team to do, right? So it's a combination of the both. You need to attract those good players, but you also need to have those tactics or managerial nous to actually get the team over the line.
Yeah, and I guess that's where we are right now. So many of these managers have that open checkbook, but they still need to get the team playing the type of football that wins you trophies. So I guess the commercial aspect of football will always be there, and balancing the books might not always be the case for the big clubs. But let's hope for the sake of the game, it doesn't become too lopsided where finances dominate the game. Yeah, boys, we're talking lots of transfers in this episode of the Crabnet. But we can't not have a little bit of fun along the same lines. And the last segment of today is having a good old laugh at some of these footballers who received huge price tags in transfer fees, but totally failed. They were big mishits. They were big flops. Lots of names to bring about. And with our boys Shea and Guria, United boys,
too many. We kings of this.
Yeah, you guys have been crowned the worst transfer strategists in the world, but some may say.
No, I can definitely believe that.
This is the some people.
Hey, the Liverpool and Arsenal.
The likes of okay, let me not give it away. Let me ask you guys, United
I
boys.
know.
You can go up first. Who's your first one?
Radamel
Falcao.
Biggest ostrich king.
Saw the man play. I can't remember one good thing.
I just got Suzuki once, but I never went in.
Yeah, I guess Falcao is considered a major mishit. Maybe not a big transfer mishit because it was a loan spell. But definitely one that's fresh in our memory, especially because of fantasy football.
Plenty.
But no one can forget the real big money spent on Angel Di Maria, Shay.
Yeah, of course, Di Maria. But I think that was more of a case of him being unhappy in Manchester. The people of Manchester didn't really get behind him when they broke into his house and stuff. So
60
I mean, he was
million went
very unhappy in England.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But that's
60
not
odd
the only
million.
one. Let's not forget our
Back in the
suspect
days,
number
man.
one, our Arsenal favorite there, Alexis Sanchez. He's the biggest flop I've ever seen at United.
Yeah, that was
But he
that
was
was
50, right?
Huh?
yeah, no, he
Was
was
50?
no, he was 20 million, but he only had one
Oh.
year on his contract left. Lots of these transfers, you have win-win or swap deals. You have win-win situations. I think that was a typical example of a lose-lose. Sanchez going to United, and we know that flopped. But Henrik Mkhitaryan also failed at Arsenal. He's recently moved on to
Moved on, yeah.
So money is always something that we talk about. Can bring you success, but not always. And Kai, someone like Phil Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele at Barcelona have shown that is true to God. Money does not buy you success. Hey, Kai?
Yeah, I don't agree with that one, Raj. I mean, at the end of the day, Phil Coutinho just won the Champions League, man.
No, but Bayern
Maybe
Munich,
not with
Bayern Munich
Barca,
didn't
but-
pay 120 million euros
I'm
for
joking, man.
Coutinho.
I'm joking. Yeah, but both of those guys, we know they're worth. I think, even Dembele, this guy has been injured. So I don't think those were two flops. They not just yet. The thing is, right, when you pay that amount of money for those type of world-class signings, you need to give them a bit of time just to see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, Di Maria, I also think that United should have given him a little bit more time. I think he could have come right. Depay as well. Memphis, look at him, what he's done.
Right, Leon,
I think with those type of signings, you need to give them time. And I keep saying this and I harp on it. EPL is different game. You got to come here. You need to settle in, and it takes tough guys to get.
Let me throw out a few more United names.
Yeah, you need some strength. You need like Di Maria. He never had that body strength to survive.
Yeah,
but you say
tricky,
that, Saga,
man.
but
He's got a
he
different
does it
style.
in the Champions League. You're still playing the same guys, right?
Some United names
Yeah,
to throw
that's
out
to say,
there from
but
back
I
in the
mean,
day.
to go in, week out with that heavy exercise, it takes its toll.
So,
That's what.
yeah.
He's an experienced campaigner, but good.
I want to open up another
Yeah.
topic here, but Messi, same story. Will he do it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Same thing.
We'll find out.
Sure,
We'll
sure.
find out. But Shay, you were saying you had a few more United names that you could think of.
Yeah, some
Pepe.
Bebe was one of them. Some
Pepe.
older
Nani.
name. No, Nani was successful. What you talking about? He had a great career.
That was
I
good.
love
Yeah,
that
that
guy.
was
Come
good.
on, man.
Diego
I
Forlan
know.
took 18 games to get his first goal. He was a big name who came in. We had Juan Sebastian Veron who
Veron.
came in. He didn't do much. We had Jemba back in the day. You threw out Bebe there.
And that's just United we're talking about. Some
just
big,
United,
big
just
flops
United.
that we spoke about. Chelsea spending big. They've had some big flops in their time. No one can forget Torres failed
Fernando.
from
Hey.
Liverpool. But
when he missed that open goal, that his soul just got crushed that day, bruh, when he missed that open goal. That's terrible.
one that stood out for me for Chelsea was Andrei Shevchenko. I loved him when he was at Milan. But he just
was leapfrog,
absolutely
man.
sucked at Chelsea. He really made the wrong move at the wrong time. And I think that Kai talks to your point. Sometimes you're not as successful in a new
But you know
league.
when his career ended?
Differently.
His career ended in Istanbul.
In Istanbul.
His career ended that day, honestly. When he moved to Chelsea after that, he was never the same man. When the commentator said today, the most lethal striker in Europe, stepping up to take his penalty, and then he hit it straight at Dudek, and Dudek stuck out his leg. I never saw him recover after that. Seriously, I really thought he'd be fired when he came to the Premier League, but it just never happened again.
Maybe good for you. Thinking of the recent signings, big money signings, someone like Eden Hazard moved from Chelsea to Real Madrid for 100 million just a season ago, and he's had a real poor season. Should we give him more time, or can he be considered a miss-hit already?
No, definitely give him more time. It is Eden Hazard we're talking about, right? And we know what this man is capable of, even with weak teams. So it's not like the team did bad. They can afford. They can afford to have. They can afford to.
He scored one goal.
Still finding his feet. Give him some time. Give him another season.
I guess with the amount of money that Madrid spent on players, they're bound to have a lot of miss-hits. And Kai, someone like James Rodriguez, 80 million, he went to Real, just couldn't find his way. Sounds like he's going to be in Everton now.
Yeah.
But definitely a miss it, right? He never showed his true potential at Madrid.
No, but exactly. I mean, this is the thing, Raj. You just said it. When you have that amount of money, you just go out there firing. And that's what Chelsea are doing at the moment as well. You go there, you buy the best players, see what sticks and what misses. If it misses, you send them out to Arsenal, like what happened with Ozil and Real Madrid.
Money game.
So, it's one of those things.
Speaking of your Gunners, who's the one that you recall as a big miss it? One that you thought you had big hopes for at the Emirates or at Ivory, but didn't really live up to potential?
Yeah. So for us, the thing is, right, we've always been a frugal side. We haven't bought big
Callum Chambers
tag
comes to
players
mind,
and those kind of things. But for me, come on, man. So for
20
me,
million
Reyes,
from Southampton.
right? Antonio Reyes.
Reyes. Yeah, but he was successful. He was a
R.I.P.
great
Reyes.
backup.
Wait,
Rest in peace, yeah.
You call
No,
the
it's
20
RIP
million
Reyes, yeah.
Callum Chambers check a big side.
We didn't pay 20. We paid 10 million for him, by the way.
Hey,
Callum,
carry on.
10 million. But anyways, right, Reyes, for me, he was a brilliant player. But he didn't fit into that UK lifestyle, right? Wenger made a statement once. He said, what did he say? Global warming is doing so much for the world, but it still doesn't keep Reyes warm enough in the UK. So, sometimes it's those things that just allow these players just can't adapt to the league, right? So
that striker Jovino, bro. Hey,
it was amazing, man.
What amazing! I loved it being up front because I knew you could know what I'm saying. My opinion. I must for you.
Jovino was fucking
because you all had quality up front. I mean, you all had Nwankwo Kanu before that. You all had Adebayor, Thierry Henry, and then this came in. I was like, yeah, please. He was like the best thing that could happen for me in that Arsenal front line. Because obviously then it was big rivalry between United and Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, but to be honest with you, right, that guy, he came with high stats. He was highest goal scorer for Lille before he joined us. He had actually better stats than Eden Hazard before he signed.
But sometimes a player can have the numbers, but you can just see them on the pitch and you can see they're not up to scratch.
Only when they come, and that's what they say.
No, but some people just have bad luck. I always look at Zlatan when he moved to Barca, and we know Zlatan talent. Wherever he was, he performed. But just at Barca, he never looked the part. So sometimes as a club, you just don't fit in. And Jovino probably was one of that. He didn't really show his true potential there. When we look at ones that probably were misses on the Liverpool side, someone like Andy Carroll always comes to mind, but
of course.
Just invented big money for
35 million, man.
No, you let a few men. What
Arola?
What is the guy's name?
Arbeloa.
Arolia. Not Arbeloa. Yeah, well, even Arbeloa, because he didn't do anything for Liverpool, but when he went to Madrid, he was decent.
No, but he was Aquilani was also
he signed injured and left dead.
Yeah. So transfer misses are common in this space, boys. But I think
also depends on the team the guy's going to. Like Liverpool is struggling back there, and so you're going to throw in a striker like Andy Carroll, and you're going to expect him to be
Elas Diouf,
Fernando Torres at Chelsea.
Yep, we spoke about that one. Torres was a big failure, but I think United wins the cake here.
Cinema Pongole. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'll never forget that, man. What a legend. But I think this is obviously founding from the Messi discussion. And to close this one off, boys, is Messi really going to be a missit wherever he goes?
Never.
Close it off. I think Shea is very loud and proud on that one. Gur, Messi, missit.
He's going to be a G. I still got years left in him.
If he comes to City are going to win.
He just needs a change. That's all he needs.
They're actually treble contenders if Messi comes across. I'm putting that out.
Kai, we gave you almost 2 weeks to marinate on this one. Get your thoughts properly aligned with the facts. Do you still maintain that Messi is a risk and potentially could be a missit?
I don't want to waste my breath on this. Go watch the previous episode.
Okay, wait. I got something to say on this, all right? When you've won 6 Ballon d'Ors, you know what it takes to be the best player in the world. Whether you're 21 years old, for 33 years old, if you've got that mentality and you know what the training routine is like, you know what it takes to be the best. Yes, Messi may not be as vociferous as Ronaldo about being the best player in the world. He's more humble, more modest, but he's obviously putting in the work if he's won 6 Ballon d'Ors. And for him to move to the Premier League, he knows what he needs to do. He can't be sitting in his ass thinking, I'm the best.
These poor listeners are probably thinking, this bra Shay actually thinks he needs to talk up Lionel Messi because Kai is being a little bitch there.
Yeah, maybe I should just shut up.
Messi talks for himself. He does not need
thank
to.
You.
And,
Thank you.
And I
don't know why I need to defend you.
I can't wait for Messi to prove Kai wrong. I think all of us and the listeners are waiting.
And the thing is, Raj, if you listen to the last episode, I said, if Messi proves me wrong, it'd be good. I don't have a problem. But at the end of the day, at this stage, it's a risk.
I think we should put a bet on this to close out this show. And I'm going to give Gurr the opportunity
but it shouldn't be a bet.
I want to quote everything you said in the last episode.
I don't think you guys are listening to the core of what I'm saying.
It's recorded.
And Saga, maybe you can weigh in on this because you weren't here in the last episode, even though you said the goodbyes, right? I am saying we do not contest the fact that Messi is and has been a brilliant player for the past couple of seasons. But we don't know if he's going to do it in the EPL yet. He can play one game and I can tell you this guy's going to win.
And that's what I'm giving you an opportunity now to answer as these other boys have. Do you think Messi is not going to be successful in his next move? You are still maintaining your no.
Yeah. Remember last episode is recorded, huh?
My answer is no. He is such a great player. All he needs is just a change of scenery. He needs to humble himself. He has been like a god there.
Yeah.
Where he goes next, he won't be. He will have to fall into different strategies.
Right.
Yeah.
For me,
he needs a change.
The first step is for you to get Messi into the Premier League, right? And secondly, he's going to go down like a can of whatever.
I'll buy it. Just because of that, I'll buy it.
Okay, so I'm gonna get on the call now with Messi and just give him a heads up. He needs to come to the Premier League just so.
Go for it. He must prove me wrong. He must prove me wrong. Yeah.
All these conversations are recorded. I can't wait to see what happens.
Okay, boys, that was a good show. Listeners, you know what we do. Always fresh, always raw from our Ghana Kai. But authentic opinions straight from the street. We hope you enjoyed this one. A bit of fun to end it off talking to the Mishits in the transfer market. But exciting week ahead. And boys, always appreciate your time. We'll be around the street again talking football as we always do in a few more days and a few more weeks when it starts again. But thank you for your time.
Shots. Always good to
be man. Thanks, Raj.
Boys and listeners, hope you enjoyed this one. We're obviously in the middle of the season break where transfers are the biggest talk of the season, and we had to weigh our opinions on the big ones and talking about the financial side of the footballing world as well. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back fresh off the streets of South Africa as we always do, bringing you authentic opinions only here on the Crab Net Show. Over and out.